Welcome back to Behind the Caution Tape. I'm your host, CrashLit. We are recording out of the Surf Festival on 29th Street in University Park. And it's been a busy week with USC athletics. But before we get into anything, I'd like to take a moment to honor legendary football coach John Robinson, who passed away last Monday night. So after we were done recording, due to complications of pneumonia in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Robinson served 2 stints as USC's football coach from 1976 to 1982, and then again from 93 to 97. His most notable accomplishment was winning the 1978 national championship for USC. So fight on to a legend, and rest in peace to John Robinson. And then, in addition, now it is rivalry week, so all the statues on campus have been wrapped up to protect them from any Bruins looking to vandalize them. And a big shout out to the Trojan Knights and the USC Hellenes being on guard 24/7 and on the lookout for any pesky Bruins. Fours down. Meanwhile, there were a lot of recruits signed across many of the sports. Football's National Signing Day is still a few weeks away. We'll get into some high-profile recruits later on that did or just noted with some recruiting stuff that was pretty noticeable this week. But let's get into some of the sports that have been now having some action. So women's water polo had their alumni game Saturday morning before the football game at the Otsangu Aquatic Center. And then their first action, as I mentioned, will be in the Beach Invitational on starting January 18th in Long Beach. Swim and dive, meanwhile, is back in action this week. The swim team heads to Texas for the Texas Hall of Fame Swimming Invitational from November 20th through 22nd in Austin. And then the dive team is actually at home, and they'll be hosting a Trojan Dive Invitational from Friday through Sunday, so the 22nd through 24th. Cross country, meanwhile, finished 33rd out of 39 teams in the NCAA West Regional that occurred on last Friday in Colfax, Washington. Not sure what exactly that means for what happens next for the team or if their season is complete. Still nothing has been posted yet. I will try to have updates for that. But should anyone be invited to the NCAA championships, those will take place this Saturday, November 22nd in Madison, Wisconsin. Men's volleyball, after having a weekend off from fall action, is back in action this Friday, Saturday for the UCLA fall tournament, which will take place at Poly Pavilion, so November 22nd and 23rd. Beach volleyball, meanwhile, they sent out 4 players to the AVCA championships in Huntsville, Alabama. Maya Gessner and Kaylee Truslow were placed 21st, and Bailey Showalter and Kaylee Young placed 43rd. As far as I can tell, it's the final action for this team for the fall season. Spring schedule still not out, and I expect that will be, and the season usually starts in mid to late February. So, and I believe that's what's next. I will update you if anything changes on that front. Meanwhile, on to baseball, Cardinal Gold Series is now underway. Those games will all be taking place at East LA College. So if you want to make it out, here's what times they'll be happening at ELAC. So the first game happened on November 15th, so last Friday at 6:15 p.m. Second game is tomorrow night at 4:30 p.m. And then the third game is this Friday at 6:15 p.m. So definitely, if you can get out there, do go support these guys. Will be playing Irvine, and that is, as far as I can tell, their final fall ball action. But then in recruiting news for baseball, they have the number 12 recruiting class for next year ranked by Perfect Game, the number 21st class by Baseball America, and that's number 1 among Big Ten schools. So Andy Stankiewicz definitely trying to make some noise as the Trojans enter their inaugural season in the Big Ten Conference for baseball. Women's tennis, meanwhile, a couple players will be gearing up for the singles and doubles individual championships for the NCAA. That'll run from tomorrow through Friday. Grace Piper will be right there in singles, and Piper will also be playing in doubles with Lily Fairclough. Pardon me. Then for the rest of the team, dual match season starts in January. Men's water polo, meanwhile, on to sports fully in action and going. Lost their final game of the season at number one UCLA 16-9 this past Saturday. Connor Cohen led the team with 2 goals. Everyone else had one, and it was close in the first, and then USC managed to just pull away in the second and third and didn't really look back from there. So the Trojans finished the regular season with an 18-5 overall record, 2-4 mark in MPSF play. They are currently ranked fourth in the country, and I feel like they'll probably stay about there. And they'll finish as the third seed in the MPSF West play, guaranteeing them the fifth seed in the MPSF tournament. And they'll be back at Westwood this weekend when they'll play UCLA, who will win the MPSF, and they'll face Austin College, who finished the year 10-7 in the first game of the MPSF tournament at 12 p.m. on Friday. You can watch that overnight.com. And then this game, they need to get it right because they will face UCLA and probably also Stanford at some point during the tournament due to just the strength of those two teams. They're kind of just been that 1-2 punch all year that's been giving the Trojans trouble. One thing about this team, though, is they are very good when it does hit the postseason and it does matter. So I'm confident this team's going to find a way to win the MPSF tournament. So we'll see how they do this weekend. Best of luck to men's water polo. Women's soccer, meanwhile, won the first round of the NCAA tournament, beating Sacramento State 5-0 yesterday at Dignity Health Sports Park on the track stadium. And 5 different Trojans scored, including Florian Jorde, who got to come off the bench. And the reason I bring her up is I actually got to interview her. So it's great to see her, do well coming off the bench. And then I also got to interview her when I did a feature on Elena Sampaio, who also scored on a free kick. So definitely this team looking to keep staying hot and are just going to be playing a new location, actually. Even though they will be the home team, they will be having to relocate again this weekend. So they're now 16-1-3. They'll next host St. Louis, who's 15-1-6 on the year at Great Park in Irvine at 5 p.m. on Friday. That game will be shown on ESPN Plus. St. Louis beat Kansas in the first round to get a date with the Trojans. And then should the Trojans win, they will either face Wisconsin and Virginia at Great Park at Great Park on Sunday. The Cavaliers and Badgers playing before USC and St. Louis at 2 p.m. So USC will face the winner on Sunday. So with all those games on ESPN Plus, and just overall best of luck to this team this weekend. And we'll see if the Trojans can keep going and get closer to bringing home a national championship. Women's basketball, meanwhile, had 2 games this week. They beat CSUN on last Tuesday, 124-39, and Santa Clara 81-50. So against CSUN, they just went up 36 in the first quarter and never looked back. Juju Watkins led with 21 points, but also spread the ball around and just allowed a lot of players to score. And a big congratulations to head coach Lindsay Gottlieb on securing her 300th career win as a basketball coach. Gottlieb has just been absolutely fantastic for this program, and it's just been really fun to just watch what she's been doing, just make this team really fun and exciting to go cheer on. And just you're seeing just the reaction from the USC community. More and more fans are showing up every game. I remember my freshman year, it's almost no one in the building. Now they're always just finding ways to just sell more tickets, which is just amazing. It's fantastic. Like, everyone, you should go support this team if you can, especially with their big matchup this week. I'll get to that in a second. But then they beat, as I mentioned, Santa Clara 81-50 on Friday. And then Watkins led again with 22 points against SCU. And then she also hit her 1,000 career point mark. So got there really fast. Like, took her, I think it was 38 or 39 games. Don't quote me on that. I know they said it, but I think it was something incredibly quickly, considering that we're only 4 games into the season now for this team. So a lot of fun on that part. So they're now 4-0 on the season, held steady at third in the AP poll this week. And overall, my thoughts are this depth on this team is impressive. And the starting lineup is really strong too. Like, Kennedy Smith is doing really thriving in that starting lineup. She's been scoring a lot of points. And a couple other players off the bench who've been impressing me this year are Kaylee Heckel has just been played really well in the games that she's played in. Avery Howell is just a threat from deep behind the arc, and Malia Samuel is just a beast on both sides of the court. So it's just been a really fun team to watch, and I think just this team is going to go really far this year and going to be really special. For her efforts this week, Juju Watkins did earn a spot on this week's Big Ten Weekly Honor Roll. And actually, before I circle back to it, I do want to mention for the game against CSUN, that was the most points scored and the largest margin of victory for this for USC women's basketball team. So a lot of history being made, and it was really exciting and fun to be at. See them hit triple digits. Only the second time I've ever seen that happen at a game at Galen Center. So it's just a lot of fun to be at, and I really cannot wait to see what this team does. So up next, USC only has one game this week, and they'll be facing 4-0 and 6th ranked Notre Dame at 1 p.m. on Saturday at Galen Center. Game will be shown on NBC and Peacock. And I think it's going to be a thriller of a matchup. Like, I can't wait to be at this one, especially when you have Hannah Hidalgo returning to lead the Irish this year, and just a team that just made it to the Sweet 16 last year. And I feel like also just, even though they don't play each other every year, I just feel like just the heat of the rivalry from football that's been going on for centuries is going to bleed into this and just, make it fun and just a really great environment. It's part of a home and home this year. So USC's hosting Notre Dame this year, and then next year the Trojans will visit the Fighting Irish in South Bend. So it's definitely going to be a really exciting matchup. Definitely make sure you can get there before the football game against the Rose Bowl. As I mentioned last week, I've already set my plans for that day. I'm just having my car ready to go. So as soon as that game is over, I can just get straight to the Rose Bowl from Galen. And then, anyways, so some recruiting news. The number 3 player in the in the out of high school is Jazzy Davidson, who signed last week to join on for next season, 2025-26 season. And this gives Gottlieb 6 5-star recruits since 2022. And I'm gonna recite them in order of when they joined the team. So Aaliyah Gales in 2022, Juju Watkins, Aaliyah Gales 2 years ago, Juju Watkins last year, Kennedy Smith, Avery Howell, and Kaylee Heckle this year, and now Jazzy Davidson for next year. So Lindsay Gottlieb, in addition to just being a fantastic coach, is just an amazing recruiter, and we're just seeing the results of it. And so it's just so fun to see all the players she's bringing in and how well they're working together. Doesn't matter whether this is their freshman year or if they've been in college for a few years and are here for the first time. She's just really got a group that's just close and just works really well with each other. So I'm really excited to see them when they get another big test this week against Notre Dame. On to the men's team. A little tougher to watch this week for sure, but they went 1-1 this week, beat UT Arlington at home on last Wednesday, 98-95, but then lost a heartbreaker to Cal 71-66 last night. So really against UTA, it was Desmond Claude and Josh Cohen who really helped USC get past this UTA team that they just kind of, I feel like in some ways just let play with them. And I get, this, as we talked about, this team is still learning how to play with each other. 16 new guys. Chemistry clearly still needs some work, but I still feel like it was just a stressful game. And I feel like the Mavericks were just in it for too much of it. So it was a little frustrating in that regard. But then the Cal game, they went all out on that one. They were trying to get people to come anyway. I mean, I saw like free ticket vouchers at Starbucks. I talked with someone else who saw them at another Starbucks elsewhere near campus. So it was just kind of crazy. They were going for this whole Bay versus LA. And also, I mean, there's just the natural hate too. 2 former Pac-12 schools now in different conferences, USC in the Big Ten, Cal in the ACC. And I mean, after the game, you heard, or kind of throughout whenever Cal was doing well, you heard them yelling ACC to try to prove that they're in the better conference. So I guess also just with how it all went down, I'm not going to get too into that, but pretty much you can just see that, the hate was kind of just there, but it made it a fun environment. It was probably the most packed game that the Trojans have played in all year. And I knew it was going to be a tight one, especially with just the trajectory that Bears head coach Mark Madsen has that program on. Like, I think he's doing a great job there. And I think USC is going to get there too. It's year one of the Must Bus era. So we'll see what happens, but definitely it was a tough game. Desmond Claude and St. Thomas led the way in scoring. And then I wasn't sure why Josh Cohen only played 9 minutes. He's been a really reliable force in the paint, even though he's not considered a big guy. He's well, he's still one of the tallest guys on the team. He's 6'10". He's him and Harrison Hornery. But when you think of a big guy, you're usually thinking someone over 7 feet. But still, I feel like Cohen's doing a great job in the paint and just being a force in the key. So it's just still puzzled why I didn't play more, but I'm confident that Eric Musselman's going to get this team back on track. And they got two. And really, so I just feel like Cohen should be playing more. And then also, I feel like just there's sometimes where just Trojans looked a little sloppy and it helped just made the game. And it was just a good game, but it was also frustrating for those reasons because of that. But I'm confident that Eric Musselman's going to turn this program around. That's what he does. He's turned around multiple programs ever since he's been a college head coach, both at Nevada, Arkansas, and I'm confident that will continue, pardon me, with USC. So I'm really excited to see what he does there. But yeah, the Trojans having 2 games to get back on track this week. They play San Jose State, who's 1-4 on Wednesday at 7 p.m. That's gonna be shown on Peacock, and then Grambling, who's 1-2 on Sunday at 4 p.m. on the Big Ten Plus. So definitely two teams that they need to bounce back, correct mistakes and poor play, figure out just kind of playing together, just get more comfortable playing with each other. And then, as I said, I'd like to see Cohen get more minutes, hopefully. But I'm still confident the team's going to bounce back and get a couple wins this week and be 5-1 heading into Thanksgiving. So we'll see what happens this week. I'll be at both those games. Women's volleyball, meanwhile, also had a bit of a week that started tough, but then definitely turned around really quickly. So a 3-0 loss to number 6 Wisconsin on Thursday. And it was definitely just a tough match for USC to find much momentum, and missed serves did not help them much. So it was just, for the most part, I mean, there were times where they're battling with Wisconsin, but especially in the third set, just the Badgers just kind of ran away with it. Kind of near the end of the sets, just Wisconsin was able to just run away with it. So it was kind of a tough match to watch. But Allie Batenhorst had 10 kills against the Badgers. But against the Ducks, a whole different story, but one that started out pretty tough. USC playing tight with Oregon in the first set, and then losing the second set, kind of getting a bit walloped. So they're down 2-0 heading as they head back to the locker room for the breaks are a bit longer between the second and third sets. And just something clicked. And I've said this before, and this team feels like they're disrespected or just whenever this team, I guess, just plays angry, they just play better. Like, I feel like that's just, you kind of just saw something change after they came out of the locker room for the third set. And I think that just continued the rest of the match. So it's definitely tight, but I think it was just, you saw them just play with a chip on their shoulder, especially how the last few matches had gone. So I really like when this team plays angry because I think they play better for that reason. And Allie Batenhorst led the way with 16 kills. And then I think just obviously they managed to pull off a reverse sweep in 5 after being down 2-0. So made it a great win over the number 11 Oregon. And for anyone who doesn't know, whenever USC faces Oregon, it's always very personal for me because my aunt went to Oregon. So yeah, as I say, family blood spills whenever the Trojans and Ducks play. We were texting throughout it. She was watching it. So, and we went to the USC Oregon football game last year in Eugene. So it was just one of my favorite memories of college. But still, it's just really fun to just kind of have that sort of rivalry with my aunt. So, Auntie Kim, I love you, but fight on. And yeah, so definitely always a fun one to watch. But yeah, so it was a great match. And overall, a lot of things I really liked, especially in that second half of the match. Just credit to libero Golitrubin for just kind of throwing yourself all over the floor and just not letting anything hit the ground. Like, I think she played really well against the Ducks. Then also 2 players who end up coming who usually don't usually start. I was really impressed with, so why I'm highlighting them was I thought Madison Peach did a good job coming in at opposite for Jaden Livings, who was unavailable yesterday against Oregon, had 5 kills, but then also middle blocker, Favor Anyan Wu, came in at middle in the second set and just a force there. It was really effective, had 7 kills. So I was really just impressed with this team overall. And it was a great revenge game, especially because the Ducks swept USC about a month ago in Eugene. And as I mentioned, everything with my Auntie Kim. So USC now going 1-1 the week, actually jumped 2 spots from 23rd to 21st in the latest AVCA poll that came out just before I hopped on to start recording. So they're now 18-8 on the year. 10-6 in the Big Ten. They're tied in sixth with Minnesota in the Big Ten standings. And this week for this team, they play at Northwestern, who is 5-19 and 3-13 in Big Ten play at 5 p.m. Pacific time on Thursday on the Big Ten Network. And then at Purdue, who is one of the best teams in the country and is currently ranked currently 22-5 with a 13-3 Big Ten record. So definitely going to be a tough matchup for the Trojans. Purdue is currently ranked 8th in the country. So that second one's not going to be easy, but I think the Trojans need to take care of business against Northwestern and then really just come in focused and hope they just find a way to just be angry about something. And I mean that strictly in the sense of just they play better when they're angry. I've seen it enough to where either they have a bad loss or even they drop a set they shouldn't. They just will come out firing. I saw it after when they played Minnesota and dropped a set, when they played UCLA after tough losses against Michigan State and Penn State the week prior. And then, as I said, I saw it in the final 3 sets of that reverse sweep over Oregon yesterday. So whenever this team is angry, whatever that looks like to them, or they feel like they're playing with a chip on their shoulder, they're pretty unstoppable in my opinion. And it's really fun to watch. So women's volleyball off to the Midwest to play at Northwestern and at Purdue. Only 4 games left in the season, so season's fast approaching an end, and we'll be looking at the playoffs pretty quickly here. I think USC should make it, but definitely so it'll be a really exciting finish to the season with 4 games left and a 1 home match on senior night against Iowa. Obviously, I'll get more into depth about that next week. So our final team today is football. Obviously, so also breaking shortly after or right up early last week was USC football is on probation. And it's partly because they had too many analysts helping coach. And I think it was before they kind of dropped the rule allowing what counted as a coach and teams. And so because I think Lincoln Riley's not suspended in part because it wasn't deemed like the head coach's responsibility, and also in part because of how USC cooperated with the NCAA, something the NCAA did say more on. So I'm not too certain in all of it. I think definitely look it up if you are curious on it. I basically am trying to deliver this news so that way fans kind of understand. So basically, I think USC is on about a year on probation for about a year, at which point they need to just, I think means they'll be under more scrutiny by the NCAA in the next year. And also they need to show they're educating people on kind of the violations, why they happened, and why they won't happen again. I think that's more or less it. Definitely look that up to get a more kind of clear cut with people who've looked at this more. This is more just, I'm barely scratching the surface of this because this is more because as you all know, this podcast is more about trying to deliver the news across all USC athletics and not so much just focus on football like a lot of other podcasts out there. Anyways, now on to the game. So before I get into it, I do want to mention a couple things. I did like that USC did go with the throwback uniforms from the 1970s. I think it was kind of fitting too, especially to honor John Robinson, since those were the jerseys worn when he was here in his glory days. And then also I loved how they went retro with the field too, making the SC logo at midfield yellow and then doing yellow end zones that resembled how it looked in the 70s. Definitely all the photo shoots look cool. It seemed like all the players thought they were cool. I talked to one player I ran into. I was like, you look good in the media shoot. He's like, yeah, they were great. So definitely it's cool to see. But now, and I know I'm going to ruffle some feathers with this, I want to see USC wear an all black fit. And I know a lot of traditionalists are about to come at me. And if you disagree, like, I'm happy to have a discussion about it. Like, let's talk. Either just at me on social media, leave a comment either on the audio or video version of the podcast, wherever you listen to. And I'm happy to just hear your thoughts for either why or why not USC should or should not do an alternate jersey, like an all black fit. Something I think would look really cool, especially do black helmet, black jersey, black pants, just black everything, and just do like a blackout night. I feel like that would just be really cool, especially because when you see all the other USC teams that wear black, they always look so good. I think that's a lot of why I'm kind of pushing for it. But please let me know your thoughts on this, and I'm happy to discuss it with you if you disagree. Like, I'm open to hearing why or why not. Fans feel one way. But anyways, on to the game. USC beat Nebraska 28-20 in Jayden Maiava's first start in Cardinal and Gold. So a big congratulations to Maiava. And I'm really excited to see what he does. And I think he's going to be I think he's the guy of the future at quarterback for USC. Like, I'm really confident in how he played. And obviously there were some struggles. And I really loved how he can run more and he's kind of much more of a vertical passer and just throws it down the field. And I think he really pairs well with Deuce Robinson at wide receiver. So he went 25 for 35, one interception, which turned into a pick six. He had a fumble, but also passed for 3 touchdowns. He also rushed 5 times for 20 yards and also rushed for a TD. So it was really impressive to just see kind of just him looking kind of like, Caleb Williams, Baker Mayfield, Kyle Murray, Jalen Hurts, the guys that we think of when we think of, the Lincoln Riley air raid offense. And I think Maiava fits into that really well. And that was why I think I was more impressed with him at the spring game last year and why I kind of thought he should have been the opening day starter. But I'm just glad that he's getting his chance now. And I think he's really going to, take advantage of it. In addition, I was really impressed with obviously Woody Marks continuing to impress, had 19 carries for 146 yards, and then also eclipsed the 1,000 rushing yard mark this season. So big congrats to Woody. Been a great addition. Lincoln Riley really knowing how to mine the SEC for top running backs. We saw it, or just running backs in general, but the last 2 years, the guys he's got now, the portal, have come from the SEC. Marshawn Lloyd from South Carolina, Woody Marks from Mississippi State. And even the year before that, you got Austin Jones from Stanford. And then even better than him was Travis Dye from Oregon. So I think it's just Lincoln Riley really doing a great job getting these like good skill position guys and just creating a really dynamic offense that's fun to watch. But yeah, obviously for his efforts, Maiava was named to the Polynesian Player of the Year watch list. And that's a big deal just because of how good he is and how dominant I think he's gonna be. And I mean, what's also just as huge as he was the first Polynesian quarterback to ever start for USC. So I think that's a really amazing and big congratulations to Jayden. Like, I'm really excited for you, man. I think you worked hard. I think your patience paid off, and I'm really looking forward to just seeing you kind of just dominate on the field in the years to come while you're a Trojan. Fight on. But anyways, on to some defensive things. Jalen Smith had a crucial interception off of Nebraska quarterback Dylan Raiola, and then Greedy Vance Jr. sealing the deal with a game-winning pick in the end zone. And then kind of just, doing it right by giving the ball right to athletic director Jen Cohen, who happened to be standing right there when it went down. So I think overall, just a great job by this team managing to grit out a win. It definitely wasn't easy. I'll admit I was stressed at times, but overall it's just, great game, great environment. Met a lot of great Nebraska fans too, I'll say. Like, I think they're into it. I don't think that was ever a secret, but I think it's just he realized just how great it was and just kind of getting to hear some of how they saw their season, especially as it's been a little frustrating. So now they moved to 5-5 on the year. So obviously now USC now moves on to UCLA, who lost at Washington last week. They're 4-6 on the season. Overall, I'm definitely a bit nervous for this one, especially with how UCLA's kind of started to find some stride. Obviously, that was killed last week by UW up at Husky Stadium. But the Huskies have just not lost at home yet this year, even though they're winless on the road. So we'll see what happens, but I definitely think that should be a good matchup, even though, especially with just UCLA starting to find its stride and USC now, making this huge change at quarterback. I think is going to help them, really thrive in the years to come under Maiava. So I think it's going to be a great matchup. I'm going to be at the Rose Bowl and definitely get there if you could and just, show the Bruins who runs LA. 4's down. Then on to some recruiting news, actually, before we finish today's episode off, is I'd like to talk about just the latest stuff with the recruiting. So obviously early Sunday morning, 5-star recruit and number 2 player on the 2025 ESPN 300, Julian Lewis, decommitted on Sunday, and it seems like he's probably going to go to either Colorado, Georgia, or Indiana, and he was at the Georgia-Tennessee game on Saturday. However, USC basically did not take long to find a new guy to replace him. In some ways, I'm still excited about this guy, especially because he looks like kind of the quarterbacks that Lincoln Riley and quarterbacks coach Luke Heward really kind of covet and play well with, and that is Houston Longstreet. And Ward went to watch Longstreet play on Friday night, and Longstreet was in attendance for the Nebraska game on Saturday. Longstreet, 5-star, number 47 on the ESPN 300, is now committed to USC and flipping from Texas A&M. So big pickup, and great job to both Lincoln Riley and Luke Heward for really finding a way to just quickly turn that around and just manage to get someone else in there behind Maiava, because I think it's kind of how this quarterback room appears to be shaping up, at least from how I'm seeing it, based on it seems like Maiava is going to probably hold down the spot for the years to come, unless Longstreet comes in and just plays really well in spring camp next spring camp next year. So I think that's going to happen. And then obviously still with Miller Moss likely on his way out based on the rumors and reports, as well as, and go back and listen to last week's episode when I talked about kind of his behavior on social media and why I think he didn't handle it very well, but how it all points, especially all the unfollowing, bio change, and profile pic changes, why I think Moss is going to skip town after this year. So pretty much, Moss is, it's pretty much, it seems like this will give Longstreet time to develop in Lincoln Riley's system and really, I think, be the next guy after whenever Maiava moves on from USC, especially either he graduates or declares to the NFL draft in a year or two. Because I think USC's got this quarterback room good, and I think this team's going to turn around. This year's definitely tough, no denying that. But I think this team's going to turn around, have some momentum, and just head into 2025 on a really good note. So before we go, I'm going to talk about how I did last week. I went 5-2 at sporting events. That puts me at 30-9 on the year and 242-91 all time. So my plans for this week, I'm going to men's basketball against San Jose State on Wednesday. I might go to soccer against St. Louis on Friday in Great Park. I got to just check my schedule and see if I can make it all work. If I can, I definitely want to. Women's basketball against Notre Dame on Saturday. And then right after, then going to football at UCLA at the Rose Bowl, and then men's basketball versus Grambling on Sunday. In addition, I'm going to definitely try to watch what I can of the 2 women's volleyball matches against Northwestern and Purdue. So that's going to do it for this week for us. Thank you to everyone who's been joining in. It means the world to me that to everyone who's been dedicating. It's been whether you've been watching, listening. So if you've been enjoying this, please subscribe to my YouTube if you're watching. If you're listening, subscribe on whatever platform you listen to your podcasts on. Make sure to follow me on all social media at CrashLit. I'm happy to obviously talk anything with you. And if you see me at an event, come say hi and let's definitely chat it up. So overall, thank you again for everyone who's been tuning in. Looking forward to seeing y'all next week and talking about how our Trojans did back here on Behind the Caution Tape. Fight on.